Good day to you, partner. I'm Eve, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp. Let's deal, my friend.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka just a guy in chat. I told you I was going to make one more video, and I told you it was going to be about AFK Necro. And it's not just any AFK Necro. It's, in my opinion, well, actually it's the second best. It's the second best AFK Necro you can make. And there's one thing I will agree with. I myself am a huge fan of Act 5 mercs. They have a lot of advantages that other mercs don't have in this game, like no hit recovery frames, which comes up actually with your mercs. You know, Act 2 will actually stutter when getting hit. In general, Act 2 is actually better, but for Summon-mancer or anybody with summons, Act 5 just has the ability to have Beast and also provides a juicy might, which is something that Act 2 I love Emilio. Emilio is literally the most dominant being in the Diablo 2 universe. I think he is the start of Nephilim. Actually, I played a little bit of Diablo 3, and I believe the story is that Emilio, on the 6th day, he created the Nephilim, and it was good. And then on the 7th day, he rested. I'm pretty sure that's part of it. So anyways, this video shows absolute BIS skill level. It's 63, 61, 60 skills. Technically, with a skill shrine, you could hit 65, 63, 62. This is the kind of shit that really excites me in this game. But I didn't have enough time to build the gear in the beta. I was doing a lot of builds and stuff, and unfortunately, I missed that opportunity. But everything else is tits. I have the Vigor Offhand Shield. I have a Pride Iron Golem. I have the Beast Merc. Sick gear on him. G-Face, 2 throw, 3 sockets, 40 15s. Technically, he doesn't need that much IAS, actually. So you could actually go 40 15s and, or what would be the best jewel if you don't need 15 IAS at that point? Oh, I can't think right now. Anyways, so the one thing I'd say would actually be better for this build is it would actually be better to go Act 1. And the reason why it'd be better to go Act 1 is because when you play AFK, it's really hard to do anything. And people have always complained about how their Act 5 mercs die, and I'm like, I don't know, dude, mine dies less than Act 1 mercs. Well, that's because I telestomp. If you're telestomping, I think Act 5 is just better. If you're playing like this, then I think Act 1 is the easy choice because she does die less. And it's not just because you're not telestomping and positioning her. It's because I'm playing on a touchpad, and I'm playing AFK style. I'm playing Zoo Herder. Right now, I'm just a guy going around. I'm a little Bo Beep, and I've got my sheep, and I just waddle along, and I don't do this was the most boring thing I've ever done in my life. I don't know how people play like this. Like, it's one thing to play like this when you have bad gear. It's another thing to play like this all season long. Just this much was enough. Anyway, so I just ran max Cursed Mastery. I have max all the Skelly skills. I have max Golem Mastery. My remaining points were into all the curses. I don't know why, because I'm never going to cast them. I'm playing on a touchpad. Later on in the video, you'll see I'm doing Ubers, and I have to, use my touchpad to scroll down to switch the Blood Warp, or switch to Amp, and it was pretty awesome. If I had actually gone into Ubers with a full belt of health pots, I think it would have been very, very easy, but I only went in with like 3 health pots, and I gave them all to my merc, and then I died. There's one thing that you should know about this video. The Pride Iron Golem was a boss. My Act 5 merc died eventually with no Decrepify, with no defensive curses, just amp damage, no life tap. My Pride Iron Golem was face tanking everything. The guy was a literal boss. Okay, now we're going to go into some basic tips for early ladder for Necromancers, because I see people asking questions, and I said I was going to make a video with some tips. So here it is, guys. CTA is the best thing you can make in the game early on in the ladder. Technically, if you plan on only playing solo, I wouldn't call it just straight up the best, but it's still so good. It'll help every character you make. It gives you skills, it gives you health, it gives you damage. Like, it's insanity. And for a summoner, it gives your minions more health and more damage. Even if you're gonna play just solo, it might not be the best thing, but it would be so close to the best thing, just do it. The second best thing to make is a source of fanaticism. It's also really great if you're going to play with at least one or two other people. Someone complained to me and said, oh yeah, dude, I'm playing on a touchpad. So I do like weird shit all the time when I'm playing. Someone complained and said CTA and Faith isn't budget. Well, if you pool resources with just one other person, you can make a CTA and a Faith or a Beast very quickly. I actually made Beast first in Season 2. Again, I'm an Act 5 guy. After doing this video and these budget Uber runs, I would actually say that on a budget, Act 1 Merc is better for Ubers. I think with in-game gear, it doesn't really matter, but Act 5 edges her out. Even though he probably will die at some point, he just does so much more damage while he's alive that he makes up a time difference that Act 1 Merc can just never compete with. Like, Strafe doesn't do anything. She does no damage. I'm sorry. And then third, and it's a distant third, is Laerix. The reason why Laerix is a distant third is because you can easily buy really good magic wands from Akara in Act 1. Make a cow portal right next to her, walk in and walk out. It's really fucking simple. And I don't want to hear any excuses about people not being able to get plus skills anymore. You can buy a +5 warrior wand, I guarantee it, in 30 minutes. In 1 hour, you should be able to buy a wand that gives you +5 warrior and +5 mastery or +5 mages. Spend some time, do it. It's literally going to be like, if you're having trouble finding gear, go spam shop Akara for an hour and you'll find gear and then never complain again. So that's the reason why Laerix is third now. You do get the additional 2 warriors and mages, which is really, really nice, but I think fanaticism is overall better and CTA is overall better. Now, if you see a good deal for a Laerix, take it. That's always the thing about playing early in a season, is you want to buy low and sell high. By the way, if you're going to ask me what the price of a Laerix is early on in ladder, it's almost impossible because prices are they fluctuate so dramatically. I would say this: if it's a perfect Laerix and it's day 1, you might as well buy it / sell it for a goal. And it's kind of like, could you find somebody who found the jaw and will pay a jaw for it? Sure. It's just most people won't have much. Most summoners aren't going to be spending on themselves because they're playing support and they're spending on their declone killer friend, or they're saving up gear for their declone build. So that's what I would say. I would say that a Laerix that has good rolls is about a goal, and if it's perfect, it's a Vex. I don't know what to tell you if you disagree. I don't really want to hear you say, I found a Laerix that was one-off perfect and I traded it for Bear. I believe it. I believe that you could trade an anti-perfect Laerix for a Bear. In fact, I'm almost convinced you could trade a Gravenspine for a Bear. That doesn't mean that's what it's worth. Alright, so what's the gear to go for after those 3 top-tier items? Shop a magic wand from Akara. Okay, let's say that again. Go for circlets, ammies, and magic shields. The reason why you want to target those is because they're always going to be cheaper because they're non-desirable items. It's just kind of how this game is that anything that's specific to one build, especially a build that's not popular, it's always going to be cheap. Now, one of the caveats to that is if you're playing Sorc, I'm sorry, just always be prepared to spend more. In PD2, if you're playing an off-meta Sorc, it's noticeably cheaper, but if you're playing the #1 Sorc build, be prepared to pay a lot for anything and everything. Luckily, summoners are a bit cheaper than that. So go for magic circlets, ammies, and magic shields. After that, get an Eth Arachnid Mesh. In fact, if you see an Eth Arachnid Mesh, go for it. I bought mine for an Umrune, and it had 22% Magic Find Core, and 19 FCR. And if you want to ask me, well, how do you use an Arachnid Mesh, because eventually it's going to break, you wear it, you summon your minions, and then you take it off. Someone's mind was just blown. Speaking of Lyrics will never break if you don't swing it. Do I think an Lyrics is worth more or less than a non-Lyrics? Don't ask me these questions. I don't have an answer for you. The best area to farm in the game is anything in Hell. I saw somebody asking in Discord, if they're struggling in Hell, should they go back to Nightmare? No. No. The answer is always no. Literally, it would be better for you to just run around in Cold Plains than to go back to Nightmare. The only thing I would say would be smarter to farm in Nightmare compared to Hell would be if you said, I don't know, man, I only feel comfortable in Bloodmoor. Like if you're hardcore, right? Oh, I'm hardcore, I don't want to go out of Bloodmoor. Then yeah, farm Nightmare Cows or Nightmare Bale or Nightmare anything at that point. But if you're not hardcore, farm Cold Plains. I don't know what to tell you. Farm anything in Hell, except for Bloodmoor. Because Bloodmoor probably would be worse than anything in Nightmare. Except for Nightmare Bloodmoor. Alright. Even if it's slow, or boring, or whatever, the other option besides farming, the classic areas, Pits, Chaos Sanctuary, Hell Cows, any I level 80 or M level 85 area, the classic is farming keys. Farming keys as a summoner is actually kind of annoying, but if you stack a lot of faster run walk or you get your blood warp down low enough, they're really not bad at it. I would never call them good, but they're not bad. And there's actually ways you can build a Necromancer to be good at it, but it kind of goes beyond the scope of this video and is more complicated than I'd like to talk about. Basically, you play with very low health and a Prayer Merc. Right, Act 3, you heard me. And you have such low health that Blood Warp costs you almost no life, and then you use the Act 3 Merc's Prayer to basically be all the regen you need. So there you go. I described it. The bonuses to doing key farming is you can stack your keys and then eventually do Ubers, which summoners are great at, or Necros in general are great at, because support's broken and summoners are good. You can farm low runes off of Countess. Arcane Sanctuary has a high ghost density, and Ghost cannot drop most items in the game, basically weapons and armor, so they have a higher chance to drop runes. And runes early on are just like the big budget item. Everybody wants rune. They want to make their rune words, because rune words early on, it's just basically the fact you get a free skill. A free skill is always going to carry more weight when you're worse. Kind of just how the game is. And Izzy and Nihilithak are both M level 83 areas that drop every item in the game but 4, I believe. If you want to comment in the video and say it's 5 or it's 6 or it's 3 or it is 4, go ahead. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm not the biggest guy when it comes to knowledge of M levels and when you can buy a wand at a certain level in the game. Like, just shop Helicara. Do I know if Nightmare Akara can spawn a +3 summon wand? No. Do I care? Not really, because I'd never waste that much time in Nightmare. Okay, if you're wondering about how to do Ubers as a Necromancer, I'm not going to talk any more about it than I already have. You can watch my old videos, you can watch my last video, test it out solo a few times. It does take some knowledge, even if you have like 45 skills, which would be very easy to do in my opinion nowadays. You should have some knowledge about how Ubers operate and what you can do as a Necromancer to combat it. Basically, here's the simple solution. Have lots of pots, cast 3 curses. The 3 best are going to be Decrepify, Life Tap, and Amp Damage in that order, and then spam Desecrate. Alright, there you go. That's the small, simple breakdown. Last thing I'm going to talk about. Do not respec CE until full Trangs, or you know what you're doing. And if you're respeccing CE and you don't have full Trangs, you probably don't know what you're doing. There is a build without Trangs, but it takes very specific gear Basically an Ormus robe. Well, and Mage Fist. Exactly. It takes very specific gear. Would it be better if it's not BIS? Yes, you can make it without BIS, but the thing is you do need an Ormus robe, you do need Mage Fist. You basically need bad versions of good gear. By the way, you can actually buy Ormus robes for pretty cheap, especially if it spawns with 15% fire and a bad skill modifier. So it is an option for somebody who knows more about the game and what to look for. The reason I just say wait for Trangs is because talking about what Ormus works or what Ormus is worth, like, I'm just too worried about sending you guys on a wild goose chase to track down Ormus robes you can use. But in general, 15% fire and buy one with a bad skill. Basically, any skill that's a non-fire skill or a non-fire skill that isn't used. And it would be very cheap because the item has little value. There are some fire builds that use Ormus, but they're mostly memes. If you don't know what you're doing and you need help, don't just ask Discord. I know that's kind of the purpose of Discord. The reason I personally want you to do more is because I like to know that someone is willing to help themselves. If you show that you're willing to help yourself, I'll be more willing to help you. For instance, I keep seeing people ask questions to answers that are pinned, and have been pinned, for a long time. So just put a little elbow grease in, and I'll put some more elbow grease in for you. Alright guys, if you could leave a yo fuck wheat solo, or yo fuck tier list in the comments below, I'd like that. GG.
A necromancer? I hoped I'd never have to lay my eyes on one of your kind again. The recent troubles in this area have brought out all kinds, I see. Nevertheless, your money's good. A spare weapon, some gold, a small gem is all I want in exchange for the equipment you'll need on whatever quest you might undertake. No, don't be shy. All of my items are guaranteed for life and come with a 2-day warranty. Don't think you can fool me, Necromancer. I've seen what your kind can do. If you're involved in any of the evil out there, I don't even want to know. Trade quickly and be about your business. Guess what? I've named a boil on my ass after you. It too bothers me every time I sit down. I'm sorry. The undead are bad for trade. I have a strict no-return policy. Goodbye. I'm gonna party like it's $9.99.